Number 47 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. Would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, Council is appreciative to have our own Bishop Donald J. Washington here to pray with us. Bishop, welcome back to Council.
Shall we pray? Our Father, who art in heaven, we ought to recall thy nearness as we begin our meeting this afternoon, this evening. We ask your richest blessings upon our president, as well as all the council members. Help all of us now to do our work well and find happiness in what we do. May our growth in spiritual knowledge find an equal growth in spiritual character. We ask your blessings upon not only the council members, but our city. This city that you have given to us, we ask that you would bless all the residents as we stand tonight to conduct the business on behalf of the constituents of our great home, Columbus, Ohio. It is in the name of Jesus that we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden. Any person who takes any actions to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting. Pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12, any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to dismiss with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
This week's communication received by the city clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the city bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
We will start with announcements or resolutions by members of council, starting with President Pro Tem. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Council President. I do have a couple announcements I'd like to pass along. This past Saturday, the Division of Fire and Division of Police held their biannual community event. I want to thank Director Clark, the Safety Director, Fire Chief Happ, and Police Chief Bryant for this event. This event, which was open to the community, provided free produce, free gun locks, Narcan training, free flu shots and COVID vaccines, free bicycle helmets, free first aid kits, and DEA drug take-back. The highlight of the event was the gun buyback. This was the first gun buyback in the city of Columbus. With our homicide rate increasing as it is the belief of Director Clark and Police Chief Bryant and myself that no stone should be left unturned in our efforts to curb the gun violence in our city. Our residents surrendered 74 handguns, 13 rifles, 15 shotguns. That's 102 fewer firearms on our streets. I want to thank and express my sincere appreciation to our residents who took advantage of this buyback and to the leadership within the Department of Public Safety for a job well done. Council President, as you attended the event, sir, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just want to say, for the first in our city's history, it was a huge success. I just want to thank all the men and women of public safety who hosted a safe event, and all those folks who took time out of their day to drop off their guns. And hearing stories from Assistant Chief Potts out there, folks were there early before it opened up, and just saying, you know, I had this laying around the house and I wanted it out of the house, and so here, take this. And that's why you do those, and so just thank you for your leadership and certainly the public safety.
Thank you, Council President. Also, on Saturday, November 6th, the Division of Fire will be hosting the Get Fire Ready orientation. This event is an introduction to the overall career as becoming a full-time professional Columbus firefighter. Attendees will have the opportunity to experience hands-on techniques, handle tools and equipment, and experience and control fire operations with the Training Academy for the Division of Fire. This is a hands-on physical training event, so participants are encouraged to wear athletic clothing. It will be held at the Columbus Fire Training Academy, located at 3639 Parsons Avenue, from 8 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. on Saturday, November 6th, sir. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Dorrance.
Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Favor.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight, I have two resolutions. The first resolution, Resolution 0190X-2021, to recognize Asha Ray of Hope for their ongoing efforts to raise awareness for domestic violence prevention. And ladies, you're welcome to make your way up to the podium. According to Choices for Victims of Domestic Violence, there were more than 17,529 domestic violence calls received in Columbus and Central Ohio in 2020. Asha Ray of Hope is part of the Domestic Violence Network and is a safe haven for refugees and immigrants experiencing domestic violence in Franklin County. Today, I'm honored to present this resolution to Asha Ray of Hope. Asha Ray of Hope is a local nonprofit dedicated to raising awareness on domestic violence prevention. What makes Asha Ray of Hope unique is their commitment to provide an array of services, including translation and legal assistance to immigrants and refugees experiencing domestic violence. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Shanta Balaswamy to accept this evening's resolution. Did I get it right?
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The President, Council President, the members of the Council, and the esteemed guests who are present here. Thank you very much for recognizing Asha Ray of Hope's work with domestic violence victims. It is truly humbling to receive this recognition from the City of Columbus, especially during this month, which is declared as the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, to honor the survivors and address the domestic violence that exists in far too many of our homes. The history of Asha Ray of Hope is a wonderful example of how the courage and determination of women in our community can make a difference even in the face of adversity. Women helping other women. In 1995, when the first seeds were planted for what has blossomed today as Asha Ray of Hope, a 501c3 organization serving Central Ohio, there were very few services and little community support for efforts to combat domestic violence, because at that time, many of our South Asian immigrants and refugee communities believed that domestic violence did not exist in the culture, and if it did, it was a private family matter, not to be discussed in public. She probably had it coming for her, or my family wants me to stay in the marriage, are not uncommon statements by the South Asian victims. Nor was it uncommon to hear from immigrant and refugee victims that the laws can't protect them, as abusers had more power because of their primary legal status in this country. Most spousal immigrants are females and immigrate to United States in their capacity as spouses or fiancés, only to find their rights compromised by the constraints of their visa status. The dependent spouse visa category imposes restrictions on the ability of these women to control their immigration status, work outside of their home, ability to obtain divorce, retain custody of their children, and escape from the harsh realities of domestic violence. Our advocates have documented the physical, verbal, sexual, and extreme psychological abuse among immigrants and refugee survivors and its devastating consequences from the day-to-day lives of the spouses and their children. And ASHA has been instrumental in assisting victims in navigating the court, legal system, law enforcement, and social service agencies to establish their rights, remain safe, and become self-sufficient and productive individuals in the community. We remove the myth that our laws often protect the abuser more than the victims of the abuse, and we give the voice to the survivors. While we have made progress by building our agency and partnering with a host of providers, including the Columbus Police, within and outside of the domestic violence network, and through the hard work of state-level organizations like ODVN and Choices, the fact remains that as a state or a nation, we still have a long way to go to legally and socially address the safety and security of women trying to escape from their abusers. Actions such as creating continued awareness of existence of domestic violence nationally at the state and local level will definitely increase support for victims, and we will have a positive outcome. Thank you for selecting Asha Ray of Hope for this recognition. I'm incredibly honored to accept this resolution by the Council of the Columbus City to recognize Asha's work with victims and survivors. On behalf of Asha Ray of Hope's board, members, advocates, volunteers, and our clients, it is an honor to be recognized for an important contributions to doing outreach work and to keep domestic violence survivors safe and free from our communities. Thank you again for your recognition.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your advocacy. Yes, absolutely. Oh, don't go away. If someone is in need of assistance, how can they reach Asha?
They have multiple ways of reaching us. One, we have a 24/7 helpline, and they can call. We are connected to the national helpline. When they call the national helpline, they will connect them to our helpline. And the other ways, they can walk in, self-referrals, referrals by other agencies, and they can also call our office between 9 to 5 p.m.
Okay, wonderful. Are there any comments by my colleagues? Well, we thank you for your continued advocacy on behalf of individuals who are experiencing domestic violence. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and anything we can do to shine a light on this issue in our community, we want to take every advantage of that as much as possible. So thank you for your work in this space. And with that, I move for passage.
Thank you.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Adopted.
Thank you. Can I recognize my advocates
yes.
who are with me? Both our advocates are here today with me, and they do all the legwork or handwork. Thank you.
We'll bring it to her. I wonder if Carl, would you grab that for Councilmember? Councilmember Carl.
Oh, thank you so much. The next resolution I have this evening is Resolution 0191X-2021 to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Affordable Housing Trust. Today, I'm honored to present this resolution to the Affordable Housing Trust. For 20 years, the Affordable Housing Trust has served as a catalyst for the production and rehabilitation of affordable homes while encouraging home ownership and strengthening our neighborhoods. Established in 2001, The Affordable Housing Trust continues to work with private, nonprofit, and public sectors to develop affordable housing opportunities within the city of Columbus and Franklin County. And I'm so excited to introduce to the city of Columbus the new president and CEO of the Affordable Housing Trust, Lark Mallory. If you all could join me in a round of applause for Ms. Mallory. We were honored to work with Steve Gladman for many years, and we so appreciate his service to the city of Columbus. We're also excited for this new chapter for the Affordable Housing Trust. So, Lark, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Favor. And I actually have prepared remarks, but before I get into them, I want to say that I believe it is so providential that we are being recognized on the same day as ASHA Day of Hope, or Ray of Hope. I have often talked about affordable housing as a feminist issue. If women cannot afford housing, they cannot afford to leave domestic violence situations. So I think it's just providential that we are here together because those issues go hand in hand. So thank you. And now to my remarks. Thank you, Columbus City Council, for this esteemed acknowledgement. Thank you, Councilmember Favor, for reaching out to our team for this. On behalf of our board, team members, and myself, we greatly appreciate all of you taking the time to acknowledge our efforts in the affordable housing space. As Councilmember Favor mentioned, we are now 20 years old. The Affordable Housing Trust has provided financing to developers of multifamily housing during this entire period. These efforts have resulted in over $255 million in loans deployed to build or preserve 13,000 homes, plus priceless impact in construction, new jobs for our local economy. As the new leader of the Affordable Housing Trust, I plan to build on the legacy that Steve Gladman left for me with the large developers. As you know, when we work with those large developers, we receive a lot of units at one time, and we know we need a lot of units. However, I also intend to make a concerted effort to reach out to those mid-sized developers, those developers who can give us 30 to 100 units in infill projects, and we just saw that with Shiloh Baptist Church. Finally, I want to work with our emerging developers. These are the folks who are maybe doing duplexes, but with technical assistance, with access to capital that we all know that there are groups who have been denied, but with that access to capital, we believe we can provide the assistance to help them grow, and that improves our community overall. I have a board member who describes it as sourcing local. So those small developers will source local and employ local individuals. I commit to you that everything we do will be done with equity in mind. We know the community and we know the times. Demand equity, we intend to bring it. Thank you for this recognition. Thank you for your 20 years of support for the Affordable Housing Trust specifically, for Affordable Housing Trust generally, and me during this transition. I look forward to working with each of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lark. We're so excited for you. And we've had candid conversations about what development looks like in the city of Columbus and the future of that, and investing in smaller, mid-sized folks, and let's be candid, also folks of color who are interested in getting into the developing space. So if there's somebody that's watching tonight, how can they learn more about the efforts of the Affordable Housing Trust?
Thank you. So right now we aren't working as much with the emerging developers, but I do want them to reach out to my office, hztrust.org, but reach out. We have funding, we have technical assistance. We're here for the new guys as well as the guys who have been in existence for as long as we have. Reach out.
Absolutely. It's not just for the guys who are building or high rises, right?
Exactly. This is for mid-size, and I use Shiloh as an example. They're doing right around 30 units in the Near East Side, but it's also for those guys who are only doing a duplex or fourplex, who are going to hire people from the community and start elevating the community overall.
Yes, thank you so much. Are there any comments by my colleagues? Yes, yes. Ms.
Thank you,
Tyson.
Councilmember Favor, and I had the opportunity to talk to Lark maybe a couple weeks ago, and I truly appreciate the conversation and was really motivated by this conversation. But first, I want to congratulate you again on being the president and CEO. But most importantly, I'm really excited that you came down to council today and are certainly sharing those same comments that we talked about on the telephone, your commitment to equity, your commitment to the emerging developer and also the mid-sized developer, because it is really about equity, and it's also about building wealth in these communities that have not had the opportunity to build wealth. We definitely know that developers are certainly, and I'll make sure the commitment you've made to the developers are already here, so no one feels like something's being taken away from anybody. But there's space for a lot of people to be to do this work, and we absolutely know that if you happen to be a developer of color, you're also going to be reaching out to people of color to work for you and give them an opportunity. So again, I am so excited that you're in this role and that you see and your board sees the importance of letting everyone have an opportunity to be able to move forward and to develop in this community and build wealth for our residents, but also provide really nice and decent housing for the residents who are in need of affordable housing. Congratulations, and thank you for the commitment that you've made.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Tyson. Move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson. President Harden.
Adopted.
And my last announcement, the Department of Development is currently undergoing a review of the city's residential CRA policy. The first community meeting will be held on Wednesday, November 3rd at 5:30 p.m. Feddersen Rec Center located at 3911 Dresden Street. As a reminder, the CRA policy is the policy that incentivizes affordable development that has been set aside in our larger units. The purpose of the meeting will be to share the draft policy updates and recommendations. Please reach out to Anissa Lieben in my office with any questions at aalieben@columbus.gov. Thank you. That is all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. I have one announcement this evening. I will be hosting my October community hours this Thursday, October 28th, from 12 to 1:30 p.m. virtually via Zoom. If you'd like to attend, please send your RSVP to my legislative assistant, Lucy Frank, at ljfrank@columbus.gov. That's ljfrank@columbus.gov. to receive the meeting information. Thank you, and that is all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Tyson.
Excuse me. Thank you, President Harden. I have one announcement this evening. Excuse me. Our second annual Black Girl Source Summit to acknowledge the brilliance and beauty of our girls while advocating for their mental health. We're having a summit that will provide a safe space and a digital convening of African American girls ages 11 to 22 years of age to learn, reflect, and empower themselves and others among a community of girls. The virtual conference will be next Tuesday, November the 2nd, from 11 to 4 p.m. The theme of this year's conference is Spread Your Wings. The Black Girls Soar Virtual Summit provides, again, this safe space. It is designed to provide important life skills and tangible best practices in the areas of personal social relationships, conflict resolution, academic, service, advocacy, healthy relationships, self-care, self-love, health and wellness, and more. And we will feature a number of national, regional, and local thought leaders across the general sessions. Some of those people that will be supporting this year's event will be Gia Peppers, Marseille Martin. So if you've ever seen the show Blackish, Marseille Martin, and she's also the youngest producer of a movie, Marseille Martin, Lovey Simone. We'll also have T Street, the amazing T Street, Aaron Hathaway, just to name a few. Also, for that conference, to register, go to blackgirlssoar.com, blackgirlssoar.com. But also, if you know a black girl who is soaring, and a black girl who's in business, please go to that same website and nominate them by November the 5th. And it's going to be an exciting, exciting summit this year. Additionally, I'm now going to ask for Anita Clark to give some updates on COVID and the vaccines. Anita?
Good evening, and thank you, Councilmember Tyson, President Hardin, and other members of Council. Currently, Columbus Public Health has vaccinated over 203,000 individuals. As of last week, we had 59.5% of our Franklin County residents that had started the vaccine, and 56.1% of all residents had completed the series. Over a 100 Vax Cash program for Franklin County residents, which started July 6th, our $100 Visa gift cards, is still working, and we've provided over 18,300 residents vaccines. Our Vax Cash is offered at our walk-in clinics at 240 Parsons Avenue, Monday through Friday, and 3 of our rec centers. And that would include our Linden Rec Center on Mondays, Barak on Wednesdays, and Westgate on Friday. We are also offering drive-in services at 2 of our fire stations, Fire Station 10 on West Broad, and also Station 18. You cannot get your Vax Cash at those drive-in services, but you can through our walk-in services. So I really encourage everybody to go to columbus.gov/C19Vax for all our times of our clinics. A lot of individuals are asking about boosters, and we are providing our Pfizer booster now, and then we will, by the earliest November 1st, be offering Moderna and J&J booster. So stay in touch as we, with our website, as we write our protocols and start our completion of trying to offer those additional boosters as well. Very exciting times for us to be able to offer that. I do want to mention that our masking compliance has gone very well. Starting September 10th, on the onset of the city's face mask mandate, we have mailed over 241 complaint notifications to businesses. We have had all within good compliance, and we have had to issue 0 warning letters, which I believe is phenomenal. So that is great to hear. I would be happy to answer any questions about COVID now.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. I don't see any questions from my council colleagues, and again, thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
That's all I have, President Hardin.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson, and I was happy and excited to get my booster shot this weekend. Encourage folks that are eligible to do so as well. So tonight I have one resolution. It's a really exciting resolution, a bit sad and for folks who've grown up in the city of Columbus, certainly for folks who've known the East Side or folks who love the Recreation and Parks Department, looking over at President Pro Tem. I would invite Ms. Teresa Featherstone to the podium. So I have Resolution 188X-2021 to commend and thank Ms. Teresa Featherstone for her outstanding service to the city of Columbus. Ms. Featherstone grew up a recreation kid at Blackburn Community Center. In 1981, Ms. Teresa Featherstone began her long and fulfilling service with the city of Columbus in the Recreation and Parks Department. Ms. Featherstone has served at many of our recreation and parks facilities, including Blackburn, Dodge, Beatty, Howard, Brittenell, and Marion Franklin. All of this culminating as the manager of the Barnett Community Center, for get this, for the past 27 years. Columbus City Council wishes Ms. Teresa Featherstone a happy retirement filled with new adventures, family and friends, and a well-deserved enjoyment of her love of arts. We are just so, there's so much that we can say, but it really boils down to just expressing gratitude. So many kids, so many folks in Columbus, who, especially those who are in sports, came through Miss Teresa. The countless amount of folks who have called me over the last couple of weeks talking about, I was telling you, former council member Page, Jiza Page, has been instrumental in a lot of the recognition that you've gotten. You've meant so much to so many people. We're just so grateful. I want to open it up to any council members who may have something to say. President Pro Tem, Chair of Recreation Parks.
Thank you so much, President Harden. Ms. Featherstone, I just want to thank you for, honestly, 27 years running the center. I'm sure you were dealt many challenges along the way, but this last 18 months, what you had to, and all of our Rec and Parks professionals had to do, we asked a lot of you. We asked a lot of you at the culmination of your years with the department. And I want to thank you because it made a difference for so many families. That your team, that you in particular, but your team that you led, were there for them. These last 18 months, as we know, were so hard for so many families and so many youth and people of all ages. But I think that the work of our teams around the city at our rec centers cannot be overstated, the importance of that work. So thank you for, after such a long career, really this challenge coming at the end of it, the apex of your time. And you deserve some rest after these last 18 months and more. So I hope that you get that. And I just want to express my deepest thanks.
Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you. This is certainly a bittersweet moment. I've had the opportunity to know Teresa for such a long time. And when I first came on council, had the opportunity to chair Recs and Parks. And the recreation facility that I live closest to now is Barnett. And had the opportunity to go over to Barnett many a time, and I just remember going over to Barnett and in the summer and how hot it was in there, and we made sure we put in the budget, yes, to put air conditioning in there. That was one of the very first capital budget projects, because it was so important to make sure that our children and families were not being in a building that was too hot for them to be able to utilize the activities that you have. But most important, I would say about Ms. Featherstone is that the care and compassion that she has for our children and their families are demonstrated each and every day. During the summers or spring break or summers mostly when she was always looking for, how can we support our kids and having t-shirts? How can we support our kids and having food during those breaks to make sure our children were fed? I mean, just the endless hours of time and commitment, besides the work that you just did at the center, just your care for young people. It is demonstrated each and every day. And so you will certainly be missed by the city. I'm certain that you have been such a role model for the staff and other managers that will take on these responsibilities. If they could just begin to think to follow in your footsteps, we would again be able to have some truly amazing leaders at a whole nother level. You have set the bar for individuals who are working in Recs and Parks. Mm-hmm. So congratulations to you. Thank you. I wish you just the very best and whatever your next life plans happen to be. And I know that you have not slowed down. I can, just even last summer with the Back to School Summit, you were right there looking for opportunities for your girls and for students. I mean, you just care for our young people and their families. So thank you. I wish you Godspeed, and you'll be sorely missed. But you deserve it. 40 years. Thank you. The city of Columbus. Thank you so much for your service. And thank you to your family and your friends who have supported you to do this work. Thank you.
With that, I will turn it over to you, Ms. Teresa.
Thank you, President Harden and council members and guests. You read everything. You did everything. But what I will add to this is that not only will I be retiring with 40 years of service this Friday, but you're looking at a kid who grew up with recreation and parks on the east side, grew up at Blackburn Recreation Center, took art lessons from Mrs. Amina Robinson, learned how to do pageants, learned how to swim in that swimming pool, went to that free lunch program. You're looking at a person that believes in it. So when I graduated from college, it was easy to say, do I want to, continue and go to Columbus City Schools, or I already got my foot in the door working summers with Columbus Recreation and Parks. Why not do this? Because I see what I do here immediately. Grew up on the east side, graduated from Columbus East High School, state champs, 79. I have to mention that. University of Cincinnati and The Ohio State University. Proud to be a member of that. I love what I do. Not too many people can say that in 40 years you're still excited about things. But I love what I can do because recreation and parks, it does make a difference in people's lives. Teachers, we all work together. But the thing about the uniqueness with Columbus Recreation and Parks is that with schools, you can't always go when doors are closed. But guess what? The rec center, if you want to come back and visit us in 5 years or 10 years and bring your child or your mom to do a class, we're always open. We're always available. I want to thank the council because as 40 years, I've seen a lot of change. But the council members that have been assigned with Recreation and Parks have always helped us. There's never been a time where they turned us down because I let them know. I let them know, hey, hold on, wait, hey, So they've always been supportive. Anytime I call or email, just like Councilwoman Tyson said, hey, I need some t-shirts or I need something to eat for my kids. I know who to call. And even if you didn't share Recreation and Parks, people still stepped in and they helped. I saw a lot of the council members move on, like you said, Jiza, just move on to different things, Klein, Craig, Boyce. I could just name so many of them that have sat in chairs like you that have moved on, but guess what? They still stay in touch. And that's the good thing, and that's how it should be, because all entities, we work together for the people of the city of Columbus. No matter whether it's a 3-year-old at my Head Start program, a 6-year-old for the first time doing a new sport, a 16-year-old that's being difficult coming into a building, or a 63-year-old senior that might be lonely and need that interaction and that engagement. That's what we do. So I want to speak on behalf of a lot of Columbus Recreation and Park members that are working hard. Hopefully they'll get to 40, maybe they won't. But I know I want to speak in behalf of saying we have a lot of good people that's working with Columbus Recreation and Parks. And we're not about kids, we're just about people in the communities, in the neighborhoods, us working together. And that's what has been a joy to me for 40 years, to see generations, okay? Even though I started in preschool. But to see generations to come and to know that what we do is true. It's true. So my hope is to wish that council members, all of us continue to work together, especially now in these times that we need every resource to work with our people, our neighborhoods, our teams, to keep working and keep supporting what we do with Columbus Recreation and Parks. Because I might be retiring after 40 years, but that don't mean you won't see me. I'm at that age now where I can come up and be a participant or volunteer. That's what I do, and that's what I continue to do. And I don't know what I'm going to do immediately afterward. And what I say to that, people are like, what you going to do? No, kid, you can't do this. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be still and let God place me exactly where he wants me to be. Thank you.
That's it. Ms. Teresa, would you come back? First, clerk, please call the roll.
Everybody else left. I would like to see you.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Ordinance, the resolution is adopted. So, Ms. Teresa, we obviously wanted to recognize you with the resolution, and it's a high honor for council to do so. But we also, because of 40 years of service, we think that it deserves a little bit more. We at council started to give out what we call the doors of council are open. This would be the third time we've given this honor. The first time, Councilman Remy and I gave it to the mayor of Dresden on a delegation trip. The second time was more recently to Bishop Washington, representing his 45th year. So it is serendipitous that he was here today. And you will be the third person to receive this honor for council. And it just says, the spirit of its people is the soul of a city. Honoring Teresa A. Featherstone for the 40 years of service to our city, to our parks, and to our residents. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance? Seeing none, may we now have the motion to waive reading of titles of third-day legislation by the city clerk? Clerk, please call the roll.
Excuse me. Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record ordinance numbers of third-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Public Safety Committee Ordinance 2706-2021. Public Utilities Committee Ordinances 2572, 2581, 2695-2021. Technology Committee Ordinances 2130, 2633, 2647, 2696, and 2711-2021. Economic Development Committee Ordinance 2691-2021. Zoning Committee Ordinances 1405 and 2619-2021.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have any speakers on first reading? I don't think so.
No, sir.
The following ordinance appear on our agenda as consent. Will the clerk now read those into the record?
Resolutions of expression 189, X192, X193, X187, X-2021. Finance Committee Ordinances 2532, 2586, 2667, 2673, 2678, 2684, 2689, 2697, 2715-2021. Recreation and Parks Committee Ordinances 2308, 2309, 2313, 2314-2021. Public Safety Committee Ordinances 2603, 2604, and 2757-2021. Public Utilities Committee Ordinances 2430, 2449, 2483, 2522, 2560, 2566, 2578, 2584-2021. Neighborhoods Committee Ordinances 2585, 2593, 2764-2021. Technology Committee Ordinances 2410, 2594-2021. Public Service and Transportation Committee Ordinances 2418, 2455, 2503, 2526, 2547, 2582, 2596, 2674, 2675, 2687, 2698, 2705-2021. Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee Ordinance 2536-2021. Economic Development Committee Ordinances 2659, 2597, 2598-2021. Environment Committee Ordinance 2602-2021. Administration Committee Ordinance 2656-2021. Health and Human Services Committee Ordinance 2688-2021. And that's all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any abstentions?
No, sir.
May I have a motion to approve these items designated as consent? Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Consent portion of the agenda is passed. We will now proceed with the second reading of 30-day and tabled emergency legislation. The first committee to come before council is Finance, chaired by President Pro Tem. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Council President Harden. Tonight, we will start in Finance just a tad out of order. We're going to do 183X-2021 and 2707-2021 first, because those both relate to the capital budget. Capital projects and priorities often carry over through multiple years. They require coordination beyond just one yearly capital budget. So these ordinances represent two different things since we received the capital budget proposal from the administration last week. The 5-year capital improvements program provides information and guidance for multi-year priorities, which are reflected then in the yearly capital improvements budget. We are tabling the capital improvements budget and program, and I will be holding 2 hearings this week to review both the CIP and the CIB. Those hearings will be held in council chambers on Wednesday, October 27th at noon, and Thursday, October 28th at 3:30. Public comment will be accepted in writing, in person, or virtually, so a fully hybrid hearing during these hearings. To submit written comment or to receive information to provide testimony virtually, please email my legislative assistant, James Carmine, at jwcarmean, that's jwcarmine@columbus.gov. A speaker slip needs to be filled out prior to the hearings to speak at City Hall, and they're available at the front desk and in chambers. So if there are no further questions, I will read the pieces of legislation and move to table. Are there any questions before I do so? All right, seeing none, we have Resolution 183X-2021 to accept the Capital Improvements Program 2021 through 2026, as described herein, as the primary guide for future capital improvements budget ordinances and to declare an emergency. I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Did you want to table that, ma'am?
Oh, I'm sorry. I moved to table for 1 week. Following my own directions, I moved to table for 1 week.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Tabled.
Thank you. And then Ordinance 2707-2021 to adopt a capital improvements budget for the 12 months ending December 31st, 2021, or until such a time as new capital improvements budget is adopted, establishing a project budget for capital improvements requiring legislative authorization in 2021, and to repeal ordinance number 2521-2020 as amended, and to declare an emergency. And I move to table this ordinance for 1 week as well.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Tabled.
Thank you. Next in Finance, we have Ordinance 2551-2021 to authorize the Finance and Management Director on behalf of the Fleet Management Division to establish purchase orders from previously established universal term contracts for the purchase of vehicles for use by the Division of Police with buyers Ford and PAR Public Safety, to authorize the Finance and Management Director to establish purchase orders with ARC Acquisition and Motorola Solutions for the purchase of tablets and cameras and the necessary hardware and accessories to be installed on Division of Police vehicles in accordance with the terms and conditions of State of Ohio cooperative contracts, to authorize the Finance and Management Director to establish the purchase order with Rocks Trailer Sales for the purchase of a cargo trailer for use by the division, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $5 million from the General Permanent Improvement Fund and $478,572.25 from the Special Income Tax Fund to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget, to authorize the transfer of funds between projects within the General Permanent Improvement Fund, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the purchase of 96 vehicles and their necessary upgrades for use by the Division of Police. These vehicles will replace older, high-mileage and high-maintenance vehicles, which will help reduce overall maintenance and fuel costs for fleet management. Emergency action is being considered so that orders can be placed with Ford as soon as possible. Ongoing market volatility and supply disruptions for all automobile manufacturers resulted in General Motors announcing a halt to all government truck orders for model year 2022. So Finance and Fleet Management want to get these orders in before the possibility of a similar halt is implemented by Ford. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Moving along, I'll first note, in accordance with Section 44(1)B of the City Charter, the next two ordinances authorize the issuance of unlimited tax general obligation bonds for the purpose of refunding certain outstanding general obligation bonds of the city. Thank you to Auditor Megan Kilgore and her staff for their work saving taxpayer dollars through their management of the city's debt portfolio with the timely issuance and repayment of bonds like these. Auditor Kilgore, can you please share more background on the issuance and repayment of bonds being authorized in these ordinances? If you're here virtually.
Chair Brown, I'm delighted to do so. Members of Council, first of all, I'm feeling great having my own booster shot this afternoon, but I'm really pleased with all of the great work over at Columbus Public Health. The ordinances before you tonight have, just to be clear, nothing to do with your prospective capital budget. What these ordinances do is they provide authorization for prior issued bonds. So these were bonds that could have been issued several years ago, and what we're doing is preparing ourselves so that as the times present in the actual financial markets, we can be in a position to refund or refinance those outstanding obligations at cost benefits to our residents. Just like we have mortgages where occasionally rates will improve and we can refinance, the same thing applies with respect to the city's debt portfolio. These are sizable amounts, but every single day, depending upon when the markets move, certain bonds could come into what we call working ratios, and that's what we're preparing ourselves for. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Auditor Kilgore. Are there any questions for Madam Auditor? Seeing none, and glad you are feeling well, I will now read the titles of the ordinances and waive second reading in order to allow these transactions to be implemented as soon as possible, and then we'll move for passage. Ordinance 2591-2021 to authorize the issuance of unlimited tax general obligation bonds in one or more series in an amount not to exceed $1,090,190 for the purpose of providing funds to refund certain outstanding general obligation bonds of the city. I move to waive second reading.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Waived.
Next, ordinance 2592-2021 to authorize the issuance of limited tax general obligation bonds in one or more series in an amount not to exceed $135,630,000 for the purpose of providing funds to refund certain outstanding general obligation bonds of the city. I first move to waive second reading. And then I move for passage.
Clerk calls the row.
Oh, sorry.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Waived.
And I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
I think I misplaced a comma in my first one. Do I need to read that again?
I'm sorry, I think we missed the moving for passage on 2591.
Oh,
We
okay.
waived the first one. We didn't pass the first one.
Thank you. So we move to waive second reading, and then I move for passage
Yes. For,
of 2591.
Yes.
is there a second? Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed. Now we're back on track.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk and President Harden. And that is all I have in finance. I think I missed.
Program, so we need to reconsider. That is 20.
Can I have a motion to reconsider ordinance number 0183X-2021. Clerk, please call the row.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Yes. Mr. Dorrance? Yes. Ms. Favor?
Yes.
Mr. Remy? Yes. Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
Is this the one you need to reconsider, ma'am?
Yes.
Can she vote to
You need to
reconsider?
abstain.
Abstain.
President Harden?
Yes. So we are reconsidering ordinance number 31. Would you read it again? I'll read the number again.
Of 0183X?
Yes, ma'am.
That one, yes.
I'm sorry.
Why have I lost my place here? To accept the Capital Improvements Program 2021 through 2026 as described herein as the primary guide for future capital improvement budget ordinances and to declare an emergency. And I request to table that ordinance
By voice.
by voice.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Yes. Mr. Dorrance? Yes. Ms. Faber? Yes. Mr. Remy? Yes. Ms. Tyson?
Abstain.
President Harden?
Yes, ordinance is tabled. All right,
Thank you.
we're good to go?
Yep.
Madam Clerk? All right, the next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Dorrance. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight in the Public Utilities Committee, we have ordinance number 2452-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities renew an existing engineering agreement with Arcadis US Inc. for the Blueprint Miller Kelton Newton Bedford project to authorize the transfer within an expenditure of up to $1,146,491.19 to the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund to authorize the expenditure of up to $11,292 from the Water General Obligation Bond Fund and to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget. This project is being completed as part of the city's ongoing Blueprint Columbus program, which constructs various types of green infrastructure throughout the city to provide high-quality drinking water within the region by treating surfaces, runoffs before it discharges into waterways. The project will also rehabilitate the existing sanitary sewer laterals and install or redirect new roof downspouts as to reduce inflows and infiltration within the sanitary sewer system, which will result in fewer water and basement events, reduce sanitary sewer overflows, and decrease additional overflows in those areas. The Division of Water will also rehabilitate approximately 2,300 linear feet of 8-inch water mains in the water distribution systems in Old Town East area, bounded by Moonberry Road, Livingston Avenue, and 18th Avenue and Miller Avenue. This contract renewal will provide funding necessary to conduct additional public meetings and outreach and complete the designs of the private property, as well as the assembly of the bid documents for each of the phases. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorrance, Faber, Remy, Tyson. President Harden?
Passed.
Thank you. And finally, we have ordinance number 2525-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify ordinance 2762-2020 in order to apply for, accept, and execute a water pollution control loan fund agreement for the Division of Sewers and Drainage, Blueprint Linden, TSS Regional Bioretention Basin, CIP 650870-100706, and authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Facemeyer Landscaping, Inc., DBA Facemeyer Company for the Blueprint Linden TSS Regional Bioretention Basin Project, CIP number 650870-100706, and the Blueprint Linden Lindview Park Project, CIP number 650870-100705, to authorize the appropriation transfer of $4,637,490.42 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund, the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $4,637,940 and $4,637,940.42 from the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, to authorize the transfer within of $1,720,314.19, an expenditure of up to $2,030,560.19 to to the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund to authorize expenditure of $2,000 for preventative maintenance services to the Department of Public Services within the Sanitary General Obligation Voted Bond Fund, and to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget. This project will capture and treat non-point source stormwater runoff using local contractors as part of the city's Columbus Wet Weather Integration Plan mandated by the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency. Several public meetings were conducted to incorporate stakeholder feedback for this project. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all I have in my committees tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Service Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Favor. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Tonight in public service, we have 2561-2021 to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget, to authorize the transfer of funds and appropriation within the Streets and Highways Bond Fund and the Development Taxable Bond Fund, to authorize and direct the city auditor to appropriate and transfer funds from the Special Income Tax Fund to the Parking Garages Fund, to appropriate funds within the Parking Garage Fund and the General Government Grants Fund, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Dugan & Myers LLC for the miscellaneous Econ Development Confluence Village Garage Project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $21,816,080 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, the Development Taxable Bond Fund, General Government Grants Fund, and the Parking Garages Fund for the miscellaneous Economic Development of Confluence Village Garage Project, to repay any unused grant funds at the end of the grant period and to declare an emergency. This project consists of construction of a new parking garage in the Astor Park area located off of Columbus Crew Way opposite the new Lower.com field. The parking garage will include 677 spaces and will serve residents, workers, and visitors to the Astor Park area. Director Gallagher, would you like to provide any additional remarks this evening?
Good evening, Council. I have no remarks this evening. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues this evening? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Ms. Brown? Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Dorans?
Yes.
Ms. Favor?
Yes.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
President Harden.
Yes, ordinance is passed.
Thank you. Council President, may I move on to housing?
Please.
Tonight in housing, we have ordinance 2629-2021 to authorize the Director of Development to enter into contract with Benavate Incorporated for the purchase of neighborly software, support, and training services, to authorize the expenditure of $46,200 from the general fund, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City Code Chapter 329, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes a contract with Benavate Incorporated for the purchase of neighborly software, support, and training services. The Department of Development Housing Division is in need of a cloud-based software package that will enable safe and secure intake of applications, facilitate work from any location, and provide prompts to applicants to assure that a complete application is submitted. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
You have a speaker, Madam Chair.
Oh, my apologies.
What will we do without you, Madam Clerk?
My apologies, Mr. Nate Wilkins.
Please.
Welcome back to council.
Thank you again for having me. 1612 Arlington Avenue, Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins in North Linden. I would be questioning more money of $57,378. I would like to know what this training is used for and how long it's going to be in place for use for, what this type of this training is called for. Thank you for your services and time.
Absolutely. Director Stevens, would you like to respond to Mr. Wilkins beyond the prepared remarks that I've shared this evening about the new software?
Yes, thank you, President Harden, Chair Favor, members of council. This is a cloud-based solution that's going to help the Housing Division intake applications, process them, make sure they're more complete. So it's a tool to streamline our work and serving our residents with some of our affordable housing programs.
Thank you, Director Stevens. Mr. Wilkins, does that? Yeah, thank you, sir. With that, I would move for passage.
Clerk, please call the round.
Brown,
Roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Seeing no further business to come before council, is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Council is adjourned. We will go straight into non-agenda speakers. Regular meeting number 48 will now come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson. President Harden.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson. President Harden.
We will now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Tyson chairs that. All members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Before beginning the zoning agenda, I'll briefly explain the rules of council as pertaining to speaking before council on zonings and variances. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents, 3 opponents, and we ask that they limit their remarks to 3 minutes on each side. And we provide an opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant. On the advice of the City Attorney's Office, anyone who wishes to speak for or against a council variance, including staff, please stand and be sworn in prior to giving testimony. We do so prior to beginning the reading of each variance on the agenda. The first ordinance is 2642-2021 to rezone 2480 and 2484 Forest Green Court, being 7.53 acres located on the west side of Wayburn Road, 1,360 feet north of Refugee Road, from the ARLD Apartment Residential District to the PUD 8 Planned Unit Development District. The applicant is Fair Enough LLC, care of Eric Ward. The proposed use is residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Mid-East Area Commission's recommendation is approval, and it was unanimous. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move to amend to emergency.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson. President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you, and now I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The next ordinance is a variance. So anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, this is variance 2677, against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will. Thank you. Ordinance 2677-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3312.27 Parking Setback Line, and 3312.29 Parking Space, 3332.28 Side or Rear Yard Obstruction, and 3332.38 F and G. A private garage of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 1479 and 1489 Cordell Avenue to conform a 4-unit dwelling and convert a storage building into a private attached garage with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. The applicant is Go Maintenance Solutions LLC, care of Melva C. Williams R. Group. The proposed use is to conform a 4-unit dwelling and convert a storage building into a private detached garage. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the South Linden Area Commission's recommendation is also approval. I would now like to ask for a staff presentation.
Chair Tyson, President Harden, members of council. The site consists of one parcel developed with a 4-unit dwelling and an abandoned storage building in the R3 residential district. The requested variance will conform the existing dwelling and will allow the storage building to be converted into a private detached garage. A council variance is required because the R3 district only permits one single-unit dwelling per lot. Variances are also included for reduced parking setback and parking space size, side yard obstruction, and the increased size and height of a private detached garage. The site is located within the planning area of the South Linden Land Use Plan Amendment, which recommends medium-density residential land uses for this location. The proposal is consistent with the plan's land use recommendation and will not add incompatible uses to the area, and therefore, City Departments recommend approval.
Thank you. I accept the entire report into evidence as an exhibit. So I first move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson. President Harden.
Adopted.
Thank you, and now I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The next ordinance is a variance. It's variance 2679. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will. Thank you. Ordinance 2679-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of Section 3332.029 SR Suburban Residential District of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 2827 East Dublin Granville Road to permit a canine training, boarding, and grooming facility in the SR Suburban Residential District. The applicant is Scott Schmidt, care of Curtis Knapp. The proposed use is canine training, boarding, and a grooming facility. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Northland Community Council's recommendation was also approval, a 13-0. I would now like to ask for a staff presentation.
The subject site is developed with a single-unit dwelling in the SR Suburban Residential District and is being used as a canine training, boarding, and grooming facility with outdoor runs, including a residence for caretaker. These uses were established without obtaining zoning clearance. The requested council variance legitimizes the uses and will allow the applicant to seek a special permit from the Board of Zoning Adjustment for the outdoor runs. Any necessary standard variances and a site plan requested by the Planning Division will be evaluated with that request, and rezoning of the property to an appropriate zoning district for a canine facility will be required within 1 year of the passage of this ordinance. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Northland 1 Area Plan, which recommends office uses for this location. The request includes uses that provide a variety of services and employment opportunities for the neighborhood as recommended by the plan. Appropriate development standards will be provided in the required special permit and rezoning applications, and therefore City Department's recommendation is for approval.
Thank you so much, Tim. So is the applicant in the room? Yes. Would you like to come up and make a statement or a presentation to the council, please? Because we do have a speaker in council chambers. Please come to the podium and state your name and who you represent. You can make your presentation.
Sure. I'm Scott Schmidt. I am actually purchasing this property from the original owners. The variance that we're requesting, and he mentioned it as well, is we are just about to close actually in a couple weeks here. I wanted to legitimize the use of the land as they've been using it for the past about 25 years. As he also mentioned, the previous owners didn't quite go through the correct steps, and that's what we're here trying to do now. When I spoke with the Northland group, I did mention to them that the overall plan here is actually to get it rezoned appropriately, but as I'm new to kind of all of this, it's a little bit difficult to navigate. So the variance request is just to buy us enough time to kind of navigate through the actual rezoning process and get it done the right way. It's my understanding that there are some special permits that will be required and potentially some changes to the actual layout of the grounds, which is essentially why I'm asking just for the variance right now, so that I can kind of figure out what special permits do we need, what needs to change, what kind of timeline do I have to make that happen. Sounds like the local folks were saying about a year. We're already kind of working with a member, Shannon Pine, on kind of what that process is and how we go about doing it. The property's been in use for, like I said, upwards of 20 years here. All we're asking for right now is, hey, let us keep going while we try to make this the right way so there's not an interrupt in business, as it is a kind of a loyalty and proximity-based business in that they've had these customers for a long time, and we're trying to not stop service on them for up to a year while we try to get this situated. So that is basically all the information I have for you guys right now. Is there any other questions or anything that need addressed?
Are there any questions for Mr. Schmidt?
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So we now have one speaker who is speaking against this variance, and the speaker is Mr. Saeed Karazai. please come to the podium and state your name, who you represent, and you have 3 minutes to make your statement.
Good evening. My name is Saeed Korazi. I own 2 properties, a residence in the Minerva Park behind the business in question, as well as my main business across the street at 3000 East Dublin Granville Road, which is a data center in the corner of Ponderosa Drive and Route 161. We would like you to seriously reconsider this issue altogether. Obviously, these folks have been doing running operations there, which everybody thought was already authorized by you guys, but it apparently was never, and it's not appropriate use for that location. It is next to a retirement village with a bunch of old folks, and these dogs are loud, they're extremely noisy. I can tell you as a resident in Minerva Park, that Sundays and on weekends and stuff, it's horrendous. As a business owner across the street where we've developed millions of dollars in generators and bringing in fiber into the area, as close as we are to the New Albany data center, with an anchor business like ours, you might have seen our generators on 161 just east of Cleveland Avenue. It just doesn't make sense that you would take and just, it's, the better usage for that facility would be, office space as it was planned for, and that's the type of thing. To have a dog facility where they bark all hours of the night. This is an old house that needs to be torn down if anybody's going to do anything with it. So it's not accommodating dog washing and dog trimming. Now they've been doing it for some years, but if you drive by there, it's pathetic. It brings down the whole neighborhood. And I realize we're neglected up there in Cleveland Avenue and 161, but it's really, we've brought in fiber optics lines all over there over the last 20, 30 years that we've been over there. We've brought in, we've had the electric company upgrade all the infrastructure, so that area is ripe for serious data businesses and computer online businesses. There's no reason to just settle for whatever is in there in some old rundown house with a bunch of dogs coming barking for the neighbors and the residents of these senior citizens next door. There's already some health facilities and that type of thing, and there's some other spaces of land that are left, and better usage for that would be, as I mentioned, utilizing the accessibility to the New Albany data center, which is right across the street, and Google and everybody's coming in. We're already here on this side of 270 on 161, offering an anchor, and because of our facility, we had to bring in fiber and electronics and power upgrades, so it just would be natural to have more, allocate this dead space in these houses that are left over from 50, 60 years ago, they eventually need to be torn down, to expand a more viable business in there than just a one-off dog, which is a nuisance to the neighborhood. So, if there is any questions, I'm at your service.
Thank you, Mr.
Korazi.
Korazi. Are there any questions? How long have you had your business there?
Pardon?
How long has your business been in?
Since 1992.
Since 1992.
Now, we started off as a house too, and we converted it. We have built tremendous on it. These folks have been there 20-some years, and they have not added a thing other than, and that facility just is not able. I mean, their business is on a website. They can simply say new location and be in a farm somewhere where these dogs can run and that sort of thing.
So thank you. I want to get that question. So, okay. And this went to the Northland Community Council. Did you have the opportunity to go and share your comments?
No one notified me. The only thing I received was a letter from the city council, and no one had told us that there is any kind of a issue on the variance and that sort of thing to be able to raise our objection there.
Okay.
This is the only letter I received that was notification of
this
event going on.
Okay, well, we know that the business is already there, and they're trying to bring this business into compliance.
But they've been breaking the law after the years.
So the business has been there, and it's been in compliance, and this was taken to the Northland Community Council, and they had a vote of 13-0 to allow for this variance to be, excuse me, to allow for this business to, one, become into compliance. And then from there, they will come back and do a rezoning. And so,
It's not late, but you.
well, I understand, and I think that you see that that's from your thoughts, that there should be a data business or different type of business that's there as opposed to what's currently there. Are there any questions again? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So, did I accept the entire, I'm sorry, I need to accept the entire report into evidence as an exhibit? Second. Thank you.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Adopt it.
Thank you. And lastly, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. The next ordinance is a variance. It's ordinance 911. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will. Thank you. Ordinance 9/11/2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332.039 R4 Residential District, 3332.05 Area District Lot Width Requirements, 3332.15 R4 Area District Requirements, 3332.19 Fronting, 3332.25 Maximum Side Yards Required, and 3332.26 Minimum Side Yard Permitted, 3332.27 rear yard of the Columbus Codes for the property located at 1135 Neal Avenue. To permit a 2-unit dwelling and a single-unit dwelling, a carriage house on one lot with reduced development standards in the R4 Residential District. The applicant is Michael Navarro, care of Daniel Ferdman. The proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling and a single-unit dwelling, a carriage house on one lot. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and Victoria Village Commission's recommendation is also approval, 3-0. If there are no questions or comments, I first move to take from the table.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Remove from the table.
Thank you, and now I move to table indefinitely.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Table.
Thank you. The next ordinance is a variance, and it's variance 1071. So anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will. Thank you. Ordinance 1071-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of section 3333.255 perimeter yard of Columbus Codes for the property located at 5364 Thompson Road to permit a reduced perimeter yard for an apartment complex in the AR1 apartment residential district. The applicant is 5364 Thompson Road, LLC, care of Attorney David Hodge. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Northland Community Council's recommendation was disapproval, 11-3-2. I first would like to ask for a staff presentation.
The applicant has received a recommendation of approval from staff and the Development Commission for a concurrent rezoning request to the AR1 Apartment Residential District, Ordinance 1070-2021, to allow a multi-unit residential development. The requested council variance proposes an 88-unit apartment development with a variance to reduce the north and east perimeter yards where adjacent to another apartment complex. Staff supports the variance as it includes a central green space, pedestrian connectivity throughout the development, and additional setbacks and screening to the west in consideration of an adjacent single-unit subdivision, and therefore City Department's recommendation is for approval.
Ask for a presentation from the applicant. Good evening, Mr. Hodge. Please, Attorney Hodge, please state your name and who you represent.
Good evening, Chair Tyson, President Harden, members of council, David Hodge, 8000 Walton Parkway, Suite 260, New Albany, Ohio 43054, here this evening on behalf of the applicant Preferred Living. We were here, of course, about this time last week and had some discussion about the council variance that's before you and some discussion regarding Preferred Living's commitments. The issue that came up towards the end of the meeting was a Board of Zoning adjustment approval that occurred back in 2015 for the Mayfair Bungalows. The Mayfair Bungalows is an adjacent single-family development generally to the west of the property and to the north. Took the opportunity, of course, over the last week or so, and really have spent an inordinate amount of time addressing this issue and working towards this meeting this evening. The BZA board order does, in fact, obligate Preferred Living to install some landscaping along the back of lots 13 to 20 at the Mayfair Bungalows. Some confusion about that condition. Nonetheless, it is a part of the board order, and Preferred Living, with the consent of those property owners, will set about immediately to make the installation of that landscaping. To the extent that those particular property owners do not want the landscaping, then Preferred Living will make a contribution to the Homeowners Association for an amount commensurate with the cost of the landscaping, the planning, et cetera. Also, so hopefully that issue is resolved. And had a great meeting this afternoon with a representative from Mayfair Bungalows, Mr. Kandari, who was here last week and is also here tonight. So you'll certainly hear from him. But among the other things that came up last week that I'd like to address, there was discussion about the fencing, and just to refresh everyone's recollection of exactly what that commitment is, there is, of course, a significant perimeter over along the western portion of the property. That's over here. There's a garage structure, a 6-foot fence. This northern building is 57 feet away. This pool is 47 feet away. Within this 37-foot area is going to be some pretty intense landscaping as a buffer between this development and Mayfair Bungalows. Above and beyond that, we have committed to come to the north side of Preferred Living's proposal here and install a 6-foot fence as a kind of a buffer and a barrier to mitigate people who live in the apartments from coming over, getting in the retention pond, using the gazebo, et cetera. Now, people can still do it, right? I mean, anybody can go on a street and do some things, but that's really going to diminish the opportunity for folks to come over and do that. There was also discussion about some other deterrents to use of that pond and the gazebo. So we are going to work, I am going to work with the Mayfair Bungalows folks to install signage to deter people from using the gazebo, let folks know that it's private for the neighborhood, to deter kids and others to the extent they are from playing in the detention basins, and also at the entrance to make sure that delivery vehicles have the right kind of wayfinding throughout the subdivision. The other thing that came up this afternoon at my meeting with Mr. Kandari is a commitment through the development portion of the project to come over here somewhere along this western property line, do a 6-foot fence with some mesh to prohibit debris and trash and things from blowing this direction. It's something that Preferred Living is doing up here on a development to the northeast. Mr. Kandari said he'd like to see that here, so we will happily make that commitment. Now, the last piece of this is a disagreement that sort of operates outside of the zoning world, but I guess everything's fair game when it comes to working with folks and resolving neighbor issues. So throughout the course of the last week, worked with Preferred Living, again, had the meeting with Mr. Kandari this afternoon. Preferred Living is going to form a committee that consists of 3 Mayfair residents, me, a civil engineer, a landscape architect, and Associa, who is the third-party association management company. We are going to together walk the site and have meetings as much as necessary to identify any issues in the Mayfair neighborhood that have gone amiss, assess whether that is developer responsibility or wear and tear from 2015, 2016 when the neighborhood was developed. To the extent it is a developer responsibility, Preferred Living will set about immediately to address those issues through their construction resources or assess the value of that and again make a contribution to the homeowners association in that amount. The goal of the working committee is to create a deficiency and closeout report. Once that deficiency and closeout report is in effect, Preferred Living will turn over the association to the residents of Mayfair Bungalows. Hopefully that's comprehensive and addresses some of the items that came up last week. If not, of course, I'll do my best to answer questions that anybody here at council may have.
Attorney Hodge, first of all, I really do appreciate the hard work that you have been embarking upon, not only to work with our office, but to also to work with the residents of Mayfair, as well as to work with Preferred Living. And so I just really want to address, and I think Director Messer can address this, because the issue that came up last week, there was some confusion, not as to what was literally on that site plan. And so, and I'm just going to kind of read something, but well, maybe I want to let Director Messer kind of speak to this issue so that the council can hear, and Director Messer, I know this is how we're doing it. Director Messer can also speak to, because of the question that I had was, how do we kind of make sure that this doesn't happen again? But this literally wasn't, it wasn't just the fault of the developer. It was also, I'm not going to just try to blame the developer on this situation. It was also kind of what was on this, there is a plat, the site plan that there is there. So I want Director Messer, if you would want to speak to this, Director Messer, before we move any further around this particular issue.
Sure. Can you hear me okay, Chair Tyson?
Absolutely, I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Tyson, President Harden, other members of council. I appreciate the opportunity to address this issue. As you've heard, this is kind of a complicated issue. It happened several years ago. Like Chair Tyson said, had this been a commercial development, we would have a site plan, which is what we're typically used to dealing with. But because this was a residential subdivision, we have what's called a plat, which is akin to a site plan. That plat still has to go through my office and be approved. Unfortunately, even though the zoning, the BZA called for some sort of a buffer to ensure development compatibility, nothing was marked on the plat to allow us to really take a look at. It did reference the BZA order, but it was vague in terms of exactly what was going to be put in as a buffer. I know Attorney Hodge mentioned landscaping, that was not shown on the plat. So there was really nothing for us to inspect. You know, in a perfect world, that may have been caught at the time, and there could have been more conversations about exactly what was planning to be installed as a quote buffer. But that did not occur at the time. So it did fall through the cracks, I guess you could say. What we've done to prevent this, Chair Tyson, is we do not approve these types of contingencies any longer. It's hard for us to understand exactly what's meant by some of the language in the BZA variances. So it's been several years since we've allowed this type of sort of vague contingency language to be put in BZA approvals. This one goes back 5 years, and so it's an example of one of the reasons why we've changed our approval process not to allow these. It's a rare situation because, like I said, normally there would be a site plan which would allow us to catch these type of situations. Unfortunately, too, the remedy that we were finding several years ago is this property is now the property of the owners. as Attorney Hodge said, you know, any type of screening or barrier that would be put in there would be being put in on private citizens' property. You know, for us to go in after the fact, unfortunately, not the best scenario, but we would have to issue a citation to the now property owners, indicating that there's no screening that was, in fact, required several years ago. So that's not a good outcome. So I appreciate Attorney Hodge being willing to really partner with everyone to remedy this and get some sort of solution in place, working with the actual owners of the property. But I think at the end of the day, this has always been the obligation of the developer to follow through with the commitment they made to the BZA. And going forward, like I said, we don't really allow these types of contingencies in BZA orders any longer. So hopefully that gives you, you know, some historical idea of how this came to pass and what we do going forward. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director, and I appreciate that you gave us a looking at what happened in the past, and that because the question that I think that not only I asked and or my colleagues would ask, but how do we ensure that this doesn't happen again? And I think that you have there is or have been a plan already in place that this would not happen again. And if ever a developer did not follow through on this, you also stated, I think in the information that you have sent to me, that then you would be going to those developers to make sure that they are fulfilling that agreement. So in this particular, so thank you, Director Messer. Are there any questions for Director Messer? So at this point, we are going to hear from the speaker, but you have definitely committed to, one, if the residents want to have this buffer, that you'd be willing to, again, put the buffer behind the houses from, I think it was 13 to 20. So that's that was a commitment. Or if the residents don't want that, you would look to either, well, one, you would come back and change kind of the site plan to go along with what's been stated. And that if they did not want that, but they wanted some fees put into their HOA, that would be an alternative, correct?
That is correct.
And that you are going to form this committee, because over the next 90 days to form this committee with the plans to turn the association over to the Mayfair residents, which is what I do believe that they've said they've wanted for quite some time. And you are going to be kind of the intermediary between all of this. So with the residents, the civil engineer, landscape, to work together, as well as a professional management team to walk the property and understand those conditions. And anything that is deemed to be a preferred living, that preferred living would be there to either pay for, put money in the fund, or remedy the situation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Are there questions for Attorney Hodge? Thank you, Attorney Hodge, and thank you for working with our team and working with the neighbors to get to this place today. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Let's see. We now have, well, first of all, I will accept the entire report into evidence as an exhibit. No, we're not. Don't worry. I'm
Clerk, please call the roll.
We're not there yet. I'm not there with the findings. I just want to make sure. I have to say I accept the entire report as an exhibit. Second. Thank you. And now we will have we've had our presentation from the applicant. We have one speaker who was against this variance, and so I'm going to ask Mr. Anthony Kandari to come up to the podium. Mr. Kandari, please, can you come up? I wasn't going to forget about you. You know that. So if you please come up to the podium and state your name and who you represent. You have 3 minutes.
I am Anthony Kandari of 4128 Hannah Jane in the Mayfair Bungalows community. And so I'm kind of in between here. I signed up as an opposition speaker, and then I had contact from Attorney David Hodge. So good evening, everyone. To begin, let me thank Chairperson Tyson and your legislative aide, Ms. Harper, for helping me through this process and taking the time to understand the significant concerns that I outlined that are the concerns of the Mayfair Bungalows homeowners.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you.
In April 2020, Dave Paul of the Northland Community Council asked if I would be the contact person for Mayfair Bungalows. In 2020, I and others met with Jared Smith of Preferred Living, and this year we met with Attorney David Hodge. Around noon today, Attorney Hodge emailed me. We met, and we had a very good discussion about a plan he presented to you this evening. I'm anxious to move forward with this team approach that Attorney Hodge proposed, and I sincerely believe that the concerns of the homeowners will be addressed and commitments will be honored. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down there. Any questions? Councilmember Favor.
So I just want to acknowledge you and the legwork that you did to get us to this point. Honestly, I'm not sure how many residents would have been able to do that legwork that you did to uncover this gem of information that helped build this consensus that we're at today.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that. I'm glad to hear from Director Messer that guardrails are in place to ensure that this never happens again. And yeah, just thank you for being an advocate in your community and fighting for what you and the rest of the residents of Mayfair wanted. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. We enjoy our community. We want what's best for it. And that's why myself and others have taken a lot of time to understand our community and tried to make it better over the last 2 years.
Thank you. I think Councilmember Dorrance has a question or statement.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Tyson. Appreciate you being here tonight and certainly working closely with Chair Tyson on resolving this issue. The thing I just wanted to mention is, as Mr. Hodge and Chair Tyson and I think folks in the city have outlined, some of the things that we've talked about are sort of outside of our zoning process. Mr. Hodge has been before this body many times. I've always found him to be a trustworthy man of credibility. Because those things are outside of that zoning process, it's him making sure that they follow through on those commitments. So one of the things I wanted to make sure that you're aware tonight, if you don't feel like those things are being followed through on, obviously Chair Tyson's the most appropriate person to let know, and certainly other members of this council. I fully expect those things to happen, but as Mr. Hodge will tell you, he will be before this body again, and it's important for us to know whether or not those commitments are being upheld. And I certainly expect them to be so, but it's important for the residents to make sure that we're aware whether or not those things are happening. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dorrance. Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? Thank you. So, and first, I would like to, and again, I just really have to say that I just really appreciate all the conversations that happened over the course of a week to get to this place. And I definitely know that the residents are going to be pretty excited to be able to be responsible for their HOA. So I think that's a significant accomplishment, which we sat on. So first, I move to take from the table.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorrance, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Removed.
Thank you. And now I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorrance, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Adopted.
And lastly, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorrance, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That concludes the zoning agenda this evening.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing no further business come for zoning, may I have a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorrance, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Adjourned.